What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome back to Leafs Digest. Now, as many of you guys know, our star forward, Auston Matthews, underwent left wrist surgery earlier this week on a injury that was nagging him throughout last season. It forced him to miss 4 games, and this surgery comes after he experienced discomfort in his off-ice training during the week of August 9th through August 13th. At some point, he required consultation from specialists and Toronto's doctors and Toronto's medical staff, and ended up deciding on this small, easy procedure that required him to actually undergo surgery. Now, my belief of this situation is that this was kind of just a minor surgery to repair, clean up, fix, whatever you want to call just this injury that had been left over from last season. It was something that they had obviously thought, and I would tend to believe that him and his camp were also under the same impression that if it were left and he were to undergo certain recovery processes and therapy and etc., this is something that would go away. Now, this is obviously not the case, as he did end up experiencing discomfort during this training that happened obviously last week or the week prior, whatever the case may be. And he goes surgery. It is successful, but it's going to require him to be out for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of no training. And when I say no training with quotations, I more so mean he's probably going to still be able to work out, get his cardio up, get on the ice and skate, but I would imagine no stick handling, no shooting, that kind of stuff. So if I were to put on, if I were to decide whether or not I would be concerned about this, ultimately no, because I really, really trust the medical staff in Toronto. I trust the consultation of the specialist that he went to, and I also trust his own personal feel as well as the advice that he gets from his camp. Toronto's medical staff and MLSE's medical staff has been deemed to be some of the greatest doctors, some of the greatest medical staff in all of professional sports, whether it just be across hockey in the NHL or it transfers over to the Raptors in the NBA. The Toronto medical staff has been top notch. I mean, just look at what they did with Kawhi Leonard. And then even on top of that, look what happened with Auston Matthews last year. They managed his injury, they managed his recovery, and he only ended up missing 4 games, scored 41 goals, and was the Rocket Richard winner in his shortened season. Like 41 goals in 52 games played with an injured wrist or a nagging wrist. I have to trust that this is just a cleanup. If this guy could score 41 goals with a nagging wrist injury, and I would imagine it's something that wasn't causing him too much pain, too much discomfort to the point of not being able to play or perform clearly because he scored 41 goals in 52 games. Imagine what this guy's going to be able to do with a cleaned up, fully healed, fully recovered wrist. This is obviously a surgery that is just going to put him in a much better place, is going to make him more comfortable. Hopefully this will strengthen the wrist and reduce risk of any sort of injury kind of coming later on. My only downfall with this, I guess, and it's just to nitpick really, is just how it ended up lasting as long as it did. Because at this point where his surgery is, his minimum recovery period is 6 weeks. So in the NHL especially, and I know with these professional athletes, a lot of these guys end up getting back to health, back to full recovery ahead of time. Their therapy, their recovery programs, their nutrition, their everyday lifestyle tend to allow them to recover at a faster rate than the everyday person who isn't undergoing all these things, doesn't have all these specialists, and doesn't have all the time or lifestyle needs to be able to address these injuries. So with somebody whose entire life, entire career revolves around the health of this wrist, the health of his body, and the longevity of his career is going to depend on this, I think that there's a possibility he gets back earlier. That being said, putting a timeline of a minimum of 6 weeks does get him right to training camp. So any sort of setback, delays, more discomfort, whatever the case may be, could delay this into training camp. And if that is the case, that is a little bit concerning. So for me, my only problem with this really is how and why did it take so long for them to determine surgery? How did it take so long for Matthews to discover this discomfort? But the silver lining of this is that it is the off season, and regardless of how long it did take, fully to contradict myself here, regardless of how long it did take to find this and determine that surgery was necessary, it was found. This could have been something that A month, 2 months into the season, this discomfort resurfaces. Next thing you know, he needs surgery again, or he's missing more and more games, and then surgery is decided, and then he's missing another 6 weeks on top of that. At least right now, we can get this out of the way. We know exactly what it is. The doctors know exactly what this is. The team knows exactly what this is and how to handle it. He can properly recover. He can take the time he needs, and he can be ready to go for the start of training camp. So yes, I would have loved for this to be something that had happened prior to, maybe mid to late July, maybe if it was the first week of August, but it pushes into second week of August. Now we're in third week of August. He's just out of surgery. He's recovering at this point. So yeah, it happened a little later than we would have wished, but I am optimistic about the surgery itself. I'm optimistic about his recovery, and I have full trust in the Toronto medical staff, his camp, the Toronto medical camp, and their ability to handle this injury as it goes forward, because it clearly didn't end up being something that was so bad that it completely changed his style of play. Yes, they had to make adjustments around him, move him around on the power play, but he still managed to score 41 goals in 52 games. I don't know what more you could have asked for him from that standpoint. Maybe it's something that affected him in the playoffs, but on top, like, the other thing there is, do you want this guy getting surgery before playoffs and missing playoffs? I don't. If he feels he can play, the Toronto medical staff deems him clear to play, let the guy play. Like, we need him out there. He didn't hinder the team by any means. He just didn't produce in the playoffs. And if the guy didn't go out there and hinder the team or cause problems to actually be a negative on the ice, I don't see any downfall with him doing that. So I'm happy that he found this before the season started. I'm happy he found it before training camp got under the way. And the fact that it actually ends up being a 6-week period, which lands him right at the start of training camp here, I am optimistic about as well. So, Leafs fans, we got to look at this with a little bit of silver lining. Yes, it sucks that it happened so late, but this is a guy who scored 41 goals with a wrist injury after missing 4 games during the regular season and was a Rocket Richard winner regardless of this injury. Who knows what he's going to do once this wrist is completely healthy? So if he can put up 41 goals in 52 games, who knows? Who knows what his trajectory is this year? Maybe he's got 70 in the bag. Leafs fans, I'm feeling optimistic about it. I think he's going to do great this season. I think he's going to be fully recovered by the time puck drops on opening night. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. And Leafs fans, keep believing.